have my dear friend Yinka with me. Yinka is a business strategist who helps women create wealth in and through their business by helping them focus on cash flow and strategy for business, mindset and habits for the business owner to help them create a journey and business that leaves them feeling both rich and rested. Welcome, Yinka. Good to have you.
Hi, Lek. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. So you came to mind because I put this series together to talk to successful women about what they do to stay on top of their game because it's different than it is for men, right? We don't run on the same 24-hour cycle, but we're in it to win it. And I know you're largely successful. So tell me, what does having it all mean to you compared to, let's say, 10 years ago?
This is such a great question because I think the first thing to recognize about the idea of having it all is all has to be defined by you. So, and all that is defined by you will change over time. Who I am now in my 40s is very different to who I was in my 30s, 20s, teens. And so it's definitely changed. I have more rich, I have more rested, I have more focus on my family. Those of us who are fortunate enough to still be with our parents will have aging parents now. And that aging parents conversation is a whole thing in and of itself. But I'm really conscious, we often, when you're young, you think in years, you think in decades, you think, we just celebrated my dad's most recent birthday, and I'm very conscious that, maybe we have, if he has longevity, he's 21 Christmases to 100. So we don't have 35 more Christmases. Maybe we have 21. And so the all that I am thinking about now is very much anchored in my values around family, around faith, around ensuring a holistic sense of success, and is very different to, when I was in my build and, get the thing phase. I'm not in the get the thing phase. I'm in the live the life phase. So there's definitely been a shift towards effectiveness, as opposed to just, the outcomes, the end justifying the means. We're in a very different phase of life right now.
Yeah, I love that. Now, let's say someone's listening and they're like, well, I'm in my 40s, but I'm still in the building phase. What would you tell them?
I would say, yay, first of all, congrats. Fire in your belly, breath in your lungs, glint in your eye, whatever age you're at is always a good thing. And I would say that everyone's journey is different. The most important thing that we will ever do is ensure that we only compare ourselves to ourselves. We don't compare ourselves to others. And so, even though I'm not in the build phase anymore. Even my little like gremlin was like, Yinka, you're still building a bunch of other things. I have lots of stuff to do. I have really big and exciting goals. And so I think that, thank you for that particular question, because I think to build is human. To grow is human, to shift and change is human. So there will always be things to grow and to build and to continue to develop. That said, I think pace is important. And I think pace is different, particularly when you are focused on your well-being. The pace has to align with the season of life. So what I could do, in some ways I have better health than I did 10 years ago, and in other ways I don't. And so it's important that we look at the phase that we're in. And I love the definition. There's a guy I spend a lot of time listening to, a pastor called Darius Daniels, and he redefines thriving as doing the best you can with what you've got in the season that you're in. And I love that last piece. The season that you're in is what is going to determine, what thriving means. And that is how you can always thrive no matter what is going.
Oh, yes, I love that because the seasons are different. Like my season BC, before child, is a very different season than when I have a child. How much do I want to be with the child? Now, for people who have teenagers or adult children, it's a different season as well, right? So I love that. It's about the season. It really is. So why has taking care of yourself become important to you on this journey?
It's always been important. I was never one of those people who was like, oh, I'm going to burn the candle at both ends and in the middle and see how much light I could make. No, I came into business because my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer while I was in a corporate career. And I saw firsthand what it looks like when it feels like you need to choose between your health and your wealth. And so
Yeah.
I made the decision very like from the first day that that would not be me. And so I fully understand success must be sustainable. Now you may choose to change it, to shift it, to color it with purple stripes and red dots, but it has to be sustainable for it to be successful. And therefore, taking care of you has to be taking care of business. It is very much a Yinkaism. My clients hear me say that at least 5 times a week. Taking care of you is taking care of business. And that has to be
Yes.
at the
Oh my
base
God,
of
I'm going to quote
everything
you on
we
that.
do.
I'm totally going to steal that from you. Taking care of yourself is taking care of your business. Taking care of your business is
Absolutely.
taking care of yourself. I caught this clip of Ty Lopez. I don't know if you know who he is. He's very popular in
Yeah.
the United States. I caught this clip about who he associates himself with. And he says, you have to be around people who are optimizing the right things. I was like, what does he mean by that? He said,
Absolutely.
I know a guy who is like, he has a couple $1 billion and he's so overweight he can't get out of bed. And he said he optimized the wrong thing. And so he talks about, yes, wealth is important, but you have to optimize your health and your wealth and your relationships all at the same time to have that complete abundance, to have all of it together, right? So obviously some
Absolutely.
people feel biased about him, but I love the message because it really is about it. Like you said, you're taking care of yourself is taking care of your business. What are we doing it for if at the end we're exhausted and don't have anything to show,
Absolutely.
right?
And I think you used a really important word there, which is abundance. And it's interesting because you wouldn't think of a million or a billionaire having an issue with abundance, but clearly they do, because clearly they thought that they had to choose between. And this is the reason why I'm very much somebody who stands for the and. I like when in thinking about my work and focusing on what I wanted to focus on, I remember people really getting clear in their own minds that, well, yeah, we can either be rich or we can be rested. And I was like, no, the most important word in that particular phrase is and. If it isn't and,
Yes.
then and that therein lies the point. He, in his thinking, yes, he's clearly done brilliantly from a financial perspective, but he didn't have an and mentality, which is why he chose between, and the results show that he chose between. And so
Yeah.
this is where, I speak to my clients quite a lot because I say, while in this particular paradigm, money is obviously an important part of wealth. Wealth it existed long before money existed because wealth is divine and money is a man-made invention. So
Yes. I love that distinction. It's so good to hear someone of your caliber confirm that for people. So as people say, success always comes with sacrifice. But what is something that you're unwilling to sacrifice, no matter how busy life gets?
interesting that so I wouldn't say success comes with sacrifice. And so I don't know who said it and I don't know who I'm disagreeing with. I would say that success comes with choices. And the reason why I shift the language is because the language of sacrifice is one of scarcity. And let me be very clear, you can't be in two places at once. You cannot be. I physically am sitting where I am sitting today, right here, right now. And yet, while I can't be across the world, my ideas are across the world. My content is across the world. There are people listening to the sound of my voice in hundreds of different countries. And so I will go back to the idea of choice rather than sacrifice. When I say yes to something, I say no to lots of other things. But that is a decision and a conscious choice that I make, that I choose to make, and I'm happy to make. And so the things that I am not willing to sacrifice on are the things that are in alignment with my highest values. So it is about my family. It is about my faith. It is about starting my day not as somebody's wife or anyone's mother, starting it as me, connecting with God, focusing on my mind, my body. These are non-negotiables that I am not willing to sacrifice on, irrespective of the price tag, irrespective of the client or the opportunity, because I know what happens when you start getting into that either or trading thinking, and it isn't a road. It's not a road I want to go down, and it's not a destination I want to reach.
Yes, I love that, the way you rephrase that. I don't believe success comes with sacrifice either, because, for example, people say, like, as a parent, like, you have to sacrifice. I'm like, well, I made a choice to have my kid, and I actually don't feel like I sacrifice anything. I want to be there for my kid, right? Like, so it doesn't feel sacrificial. And I love what you said, is that's the scarcity mindset. And if you stay in the scarcity mindset, sacrifice to me can mean you're never there. Like, the grass seems always greener, right?
100%. And for me also, that's like saying, because I am a non-smoker or a non-drinker, I sacrifice drink and I sacrifice cigarettes. I really don't. And this
Yes.
is where it needs to align with your identity. I am a non-smoker, so I'm someone who has never smoked. So it doesn't. There is no sense of sacrifice for me because I'm not missing anything. I'm not pining after anything. I don't see myself as someone who smokes and then I'm missing out.
Like,
I'm
you're
seeing
missing
myself as
out.
someone
Yeah.
absolutely who never smoked and therefore didn't miss anything, and therefore the idea of sacrifice in that regard would be false. And so for me, and it could be said that I may take the notion and concept of abundance to the extreme, but I don't think you can. I think that's the nature of abundance.
That's
Everyone
abundance.
I get all the things that I want, and I may not have them at the same time. I may not have them in the same way. I'm definitely open to differences of expression and experience, but the idea that I cannot have all the things that I want, and again, even the notion, we think we want things. What we want are experiences and feelings and certain ways of seeing ourselves and being. And I'm really dialed into the fact that that is available to me at all times, and therefore I don't.
Yes.
The success I want doesn't entail sacrifice, it entails choices. And if I don't like the choices I make, then I need to take 100% radical responsibility and change those choices. But no, I'm not about the sacrifice narrative. It implies obligation, it implies no choice. That's not how I choose to live in my life.
Yes. Yes. I love that you mentioned smoking, because that reminds me, like, I don't need sugar. And people are like, or like pizza, the infamous pizza. And people are like, oh, but like, don't you feel like you're
Exactly.
missing out? I'm like, that
No.
makes me feel like crap for the next 3 days. So no, I'm not missing out on anything. And I think that's why sacrifice, that word sacrifice, I love that we stopped there to define that, because it connects to what you said. What does thriving mean to you? Just like that, what does sacrificing mean to you? Because from your point of view, looking at my life, it may look like I'm missing out or I'm sacrificing, but if I'm aligned with my values, I'm actually just building on that. And then what you said is taking the morning for yourself. And that reminded me also of, like, we've all done this early in our careers when we took on the wrong client. And then it was like, it is not worth the money. It is not worth the money. It is not worth the time. And it's the same thing here. What you're saying is, if I prioritize myself, I'm not going to give my first few hours of the day to anyone. Therefore, I will perform better for everyone around me. I love that.
And
So you mentioned,
it's so important. Sorry, I was just going to say, as
go.
women, we're really pressurized out of that. We are pressurized to be available all the times, all the things to all the people. But how can you be all the things to all people when you don't give yourself the chance to be anything to yourself first? And so it definitely has to be a conscious choice and very much an act of resistance, but it's one that I think is really necessary and important.
And it's going to feel weird at first, right? If that's not how you lived up until this point, it will feel weird. It will feel like different, unknown. almost not safe, right? Like, what if they are mad at me? What if they get disappointed? But then I tell my clients, like, that's what you work with. You listen to what comes up, feel what you're feeling, and work with that. Just don't identify with that. That doesn't mean that's who you are. And you're right, women have been conditioned to be everything to everyone, which is why at first it's the hardest thing to. I do this, it's so evident, like when I work with my clients, within the first like month or two, their husbands usually don't like their work that they're working with me because they're like, something's changing. But once they see the shift in the woman, then they're like, yeah, like you need to continue working, because it's this fear of something's changing. I don't know what that looks like for me, but when a woman steps into that and becomes that powerful version of herself, then everything is easier and better for everyone around. And that's why I truly believe in the power of women, because we are the glue to everything. And if a woman is feeling on top of her world every day, I feel like then she can truly make a difference.
100%. There's so much value in ensuring that you are at your best, um, especially if you're intending to give to others. But that giving from an empty cup thing that women have been socialized to do is very, very challenging. So it's great to make sure that you have that priority in your own life to be at your best for yourself first and then others next.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, what are some things that you do consistently for yourself that you think most women may overlook?
I mean, I have what I call my bookend habits and protocols. So at the start of the day, at the end of the day, at everyone has heard of the morning routine, and whether that's Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. club or Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning. There, I presume that many people have a start of the day routine, but some of the magic that I'm experiencing most powerfully comes from my end of day routines. So I actually spend quite a bit of time capturing my wins. And really kind of, I have a gratitude practice that is, a daily gratitude practice that is many years old now. And, it's really great to capture everyday things that you're grateful for. But the thing that I would say, and I literally posted this on social just a couple of days ago, the habit that has been most powerful has been capturing the things that I'm proud of myself for every day. That has been such a game changer because we're taught in our, Judeo-Christian societies, we're taught that pride comes before a fall. And so we're taught not to be proud and not to look at pride and not to own our part in the difference and the changes that we're experiencing. So we spend our time working really hard, doing lots of things, making lots of changes, and then we attribute this all of these changes to some amorphous shifts, and then we feel grateful. Gratitude is great, but actually owning your part in that change, actually saying, wow, I did that. Wow, I made that difference. Wow, I, kept my cool in a really difficult situation. Wow, I stood up for my values. I spoke up for justice. I did this thing when it was difficult. That has been one of the most powerful and profound habits that I've built over the last couple of years. Every day, capturing things that I'm proud of myself for, and actually being able to go back at the end of the week, end of the month, end of the year, and look at this list of things that I have done and I've kept the receipts for has been transformative in so many areas, business, bank account, and life.
I love that you said that. But there are women listening to this that are like, it just doesn't feel right. Like, I don't feel
It's
humble when I do that. Tell me.
Okay, so humility has been weaponized for women. So, the first thing I would say is we rarely hear men saying, "Oh, I don't feel humble." Yeah, and society doesn't reward their humility anyway. But what I will also say is that there is a really big difference between, bluster and arrogance, and having the receipts of the actual things and impact that you have made and the things that you've done. And that's the difference. It may not feel right, and all I will say is it won't feel right because that's not your social conditioning. But to be honest, given the different social conditioning we've had, earning £1 million while sleeping in bed in the morning may not feel right either. That doesn't mean that we're not going to do it, and it doesn't mean we're not going to enjoy it. And so I wouldn't judge, I wouldn't allow your feelings to be the final arbiter of whether you want to test it or not. It didn't feel natural when I started, but the reason why I did it is because I felt so grateful, and yet I felt so doubtful in myself. And there was
Mm.
a real disparity. I was like, all these amazing things were happening in my life, but yet I was not attributing any of that to all the things that I was doing, and I was working hella hard. And so I was like, all this hard work, all this gratitude, but I'm like, what was your role in this? How are you growing? What was your hand? Where are your fingerprints in this improvement? And
Yeah.
so I really encourage you to remember that your feelings are not facts; they are signs, and therefore you get the opportunity to make decisions about what you want to do with what your feelings are telling you. But I assure you, test it for 7 days. At the end of 7 days, you will, if you do 3 a day, which is what I do, you'll have 21 different things that you have taken action on. At the end of a month, you will have almost 100 things that you are proud of yourself for. Tell me that after 30 days, tell me that it wasn't worthwhile, and then you can stop. Play. You're a grown up. Do the things you want to do.
Yeah. Couple things. I put my clients on a 7-day mental diet, and it's a trip, right? It's this work, right? It's this like emotions coming up and all the things. And that's when we have to understand that emotions or feelings are just pointing out how we were wired up until this point. That's not a fact. Like you said, it's not a fact, and it changes. And it's like the first time you sit on a bicycle, it didn't feel right. It felt really weird. And you had to learn all these things. But then after so many practices, like a few years later, it's like you don't think about it. It became your new normal. So the normal shifts based on what you're
Absolutely.
practicing, right? And the second thing that came to mind is, I don't know if you ever saw that IKEA commercial when they put two plants in a school and they told kids to this plant say all the positive things, encourage it, tell it is beautiful, and to this plant say all the negative things, yell at it, say whatever you want to it. And I don't know what the time was, like a few weeks, maybe even a month, and they saw the difference where this one died, it just dried out and it was just weird, and this one blossomed. And it was like, this is what we're talking about. You're doing that for yourself. And it goes further, right? It goes into the childhood and what we're used to hearing, what we're used to tolerating, how we came to our own conclusions about what we're doing, and how children always think, oh, it's me, I'm the one doing something wrong, as opposed to it's my behavior. And it goes deeper, but it doesn't mean it can't change. It can be as simple as, hey, you know what? Yinka said I should start this. Let me give it a shot. And to women who are really struggling with this, if you get to the end of the day and you're like, I don't really have anything, it's not that you don't have anything, it's that you haven't learned to recognize it yet. So just keep pointing that question to your brain of, what did I do today that I'm proud of myself of? And it will start giving you evidence of that.
Love that. And
Amazing.
that's the thing. What you spoke about is so powerful. It shows you your wiring up to now. And the point is that if you were happy with the wiring up to now, you wouldn't be trying to change it. The fact is that our feelings are really powerful indicators, they're signs, but they're not facts, and they're definitely not the truth. They just tell you what they our feelings are an indication of the past. That doesn't tell us what's
Yes,
happening in the now, and
that's
that they
it.
definitely are not what is going to guide us to the future that we want.
That's it. I think that there's a lot of like this misconception because there's this whole narrative of like, listening to your intuition and tuning into yourself. And I think what happens, and what I've seen at least, is women confuse that intuition with feelings. So the fear is primary driver to our nervous system, right? So they feel the fear of saying something positive about myself, tooting my own horn. They feel the fear and they say, oh, it doesn't feel aligned. And that's a part where I see a lot of women kind of like get stuck where it's like, okay, what are the skills that I need to build to become the version of to have that life that I say I want? And if this is one of the things, I need to be willing to at least test it. And like Yinka said, to anybody listening, just test it out. Do it for a month. See what happens. I tell my clients, listen, talk to yourself positively for 3 months. You know how to talk to yourself negatively any day. So do it for 3 months, and if nothing changes, you can go back like this. It's not a problem. But it's like it cannot not change your life.
Absolutely. And the thing is, our mental chatter is so foundational to how we see ourselves, to what we do. It is, we totally underestimate how important it is in the grand scheme of everything that we're creating. And so, but it's very, I know a number of people who don't align with affirmation. So, to be able to say without the proof. So all I'm saying is, okay, fine, go gather the proof. Go gather the proof for 30 days of all the things that you've done. If you're a parent, you've birthed children. If you're a sibling, you have been a sister, a friend, a confidant, a community member. Like, there is so many receipts in your history of your own amazingness. The only person who isn't seeing it correctly is you.
Because it's hard to see that, right? Like it's hard to see our gifts too until we realize that they're gifts. Because again, we're conditioned that way in society. But I love this conversation because I talk about high performance all the time, and the previous conversations have really revolved around the nutrition and workouts and all of that. And I love that we're touching on another aspect of it, which is the inner chatter, the inner talk,
Oh,
the
the mental
getting away
deficient.
from the old feelings and stepping into that new version of you. So it's more into the identity.
Say something so beautiful there that reminds me of a metaphor that is often used in church spaces. So imagine yourself as a tree. So, apple tree, orange tree, choose the fruit of your choice. The fact is that apple trees don't eat apples. And orange trees don't eat oranges. The fruit that the tree bears are for other people to enjoy. And so, while I'm not saying that you become a martyr and everybody takes from it, the point is that you recognizing that oh, it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel right, oh, it doesn't feel aligned. It is to remind you that your gifts are, there are so many people who are inspired by your journey, who are motivated by your story, and get to really benefit and take steps in their own lives by watching what you're doing in yours. And so, yeah, the fruit of the tree is not for the tree; it's for the community, it's for others. And that's where we get to remember, A, that we're blessed to be a blessing, and B, that we get to really share those gifts. And I'm very focused on the idea of our gifts being for others as much as it is for ourselves.
I also love that analogy because back to sacrifice, the tree doesn't sacrifice anything to become an apple tree. It just does its thing and
Yep.
everybody benefits from it. And the other quote that comes to mind is butterfly never sees its own wings. It never knows how beautiful it is, right? So beautiful. So how do you protect your energy? What do you do to make sure? You said you do the things in the morning for yourself. Is there anything else that you would say you do differently now than you used to do to protect your energy?
So a few things. So number one is I really honor my introversion. So I am not extroverted by nature, and people find the definition of introversion, extroversion a little bit confusing. They perceive introverts to be shy. And introversion and shyness are not the same thing. They perceive introverts to be necessarily socially awkward or necessarily quiet. As you can probably tell, I'm not very quiet. I can be socially awkward, but it isn't my main way of being. But what it does mean as an introvert, it means that I get energy from seclusion. I get energy from going internal as opposed to external. So I can be around people. I'm a public speaker. I can speak to thousands of people. I am in my element. You would never know that I was an introvert until after or before. Before, you won't find me because I will be in seclusion and I'll be by myself and preparing. But afterwards as well, when everyone's like, oh my gosh, let's talk, I'm like, so much. And at first, that used to really bug me. I used to really worry about coming off as standoffish. I'm very good at upholding my boundaries. I'm also 6 foot tall, so that comes with its own benefits when you're upholding boundaries. But I did worry how I would be perceived. I don't worry about that now. I taking care of me is taking care of business, and so I give to myself what I need to be at my best. And that means that I'm very protective of my alone time. But it also means that one of the most powerful things I do to protect my energy is I keep my eyes on my prize. I
Mm.
could not tell you what my air quote competitors, and I say air quote competitors because I'm much more of a collaborator than a competitor anyway. I am highly competitive, but only ever with me. I don't care what other people are doing because their mission and their journey is different to mine and vice versa. So I keep my eyes on my prize. I focus on what I'm here to do. I remain firmly in my lane, and I intend to slay and max that lane out. I don't get involved in cliques, politics, none of that stuff. It really isn't any of my business. I focus on the things that define success for me. I focus on my own potential, and I keep a very clear ring fence around my focus, around my energy, and around the where I am spending my emotional capital. And I find that that is a really powerful way. So, people talk about comparisonitis, people talk about lots of little energy leaks and drains. I don't get in, I tend not to have those issues because I've gone one step back of not even looking around in that way in the first place. I prefer to be a creator than a consumer. So I don't tend to spend time doom scrolling on social media. I don't go on Instagram and feel bad about myself because I don't go on Instagram to feel bad about myself, and I don't go on Instagram very often. And I'm a daily content creator on LinkedIn. I go on LinkedIn. I functionally use it to build my business. I post my post and I go about my business. So I am, in a word, I'm really boring. And I love that. I own my boring. I love my boring. I do what matters to me, and I don't look for the approval or validation of others to see if I'm allowed to do that. Because quite frankly, I already gave myself permission.
Like, and I love this more because it's literally word for word how I would answer it. So the main thing is knowing where you get your energy. And what I heard is all signal, no noise. I say the same, I like literally say the same thing about my life. I'm like, if you look at my life, it is the most boring thing to an outsider, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I love it the way it is because that's what fulfills me. I'm about my family, I'm about my work, and about me, and like canceled out everything else because that's how I protect my energy. That's what charges me. I love that. So tell me, what habit or habits do you feel made the biggest difference in how you feel physically? Because you talked about being in corporate, then your mom got the diagnosis, and that kind of shifted your whole identity. So, what is something that you implemented that make a difference in how you feel?
I don't know if you've ever read the book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It, because it does. But one of the exercises in that book was really transformative for me. And it is the exercise that has been the most uncomfortable in my entire lifetime, which is to look at and note and involve with my physical body and say, I love you. I love you, knees. I love you, fingers. I love you, hands. I love you, face. Um, yeah, hell, talk about uncomfortable.
Oh,
um,
I've had clients that I have them go to a mirror and say something nice, and I swear it's like they're gonna get hives. It's like the biggest mind F that people face, and it seems so simple. And it to me, it just so shows how deeply ingrained in culture it is for women to not praise themselves, to not
Absolutely.
look at themselves. And yeah, right. Like we look at the mirror and it's like, oh, let me fix this, let me fix
Yeah,
that. I'm like, okay, let's stop fixing for just a moment and tell me something you like. And I have had women who literally start sweating. They're like, and
absolutely.
I said, do you think that there's something weird about the fact you can't say something nice about, like kind about
100%.
yourself? Just
And the thing is, because my area of expertise is, money, finance, cash flow, and that mindset piece, I always, when I was reading that book, not only was it like an awakening of its own kind of spiritual kind, but it really made me conscious of how valuable it is to capitalism to have women who are constantly so down on themselves, so self-doubtful, so self-loathing, so self unsure. It like that is the perfect storm, and the perfect foundation to sell them all the things to fix themselves and to continue keep them on this never-ending journey of improvement. And so
Yeah.
being able to settle on the fact that yes, of course, I'm a work in progress. I pray and no, I won't be done until I'm done. But also to be able to honor the fact that I am a freaking masterpiece today. Even if I do nothing, even if I don't get out of bed, I am incredible and magical and powerful and all the things, like I'm getting chills just talking about it. But to be
Yes.
able the way that I can speak to that now is has been such a journey, because I remember, as you said, the first time I walked up to the mirror and wanted to say I love you to who was looking back at me, and how awkward it felt, and how sad my inner child was that day. It was a really interesting experience. But I remember the day when I removed or moved away from that self-perception, and it was a real homecoming. And it was so yes, that habit of self validation. And as I said in my last answer, this is the reason why I can give myself permission to do things that other people may think is stupid, may think like I own my weird, I own my boring, I own my bizarre. Like I literally part of the reason why I'm able to do that is because my opinion has to count the most. My opinion has to be the one that I anchor in. If I spend my entire life, and again, this is not my quote, but if you live for the applause, you're going to die by the criticism. I have no intention of
Yes.
dying by other people's criticism, which means I can't live for their applause. But if I want applause, that means I need to applaud myself. And therefore, I need to be clear about what I'm applauding. I need to be clear on what I value. And so, again, it all comes back. And it was that particular habit that fed all the other habits. It changed how I ate, that changed my relationship with exercise and strength training and Pilates and movement and walking and all of like I live better because I love the one body I have. I love the skin that I'm in. I love the hair that I've been granted, which is so often weaponized against me and those who look like me. But I'm not chemically adapting my hair. My afro hair, if I took it out, it would look like a microphone. That's the hair that I was born with. That's the hair that I've been given. And therefore, if we're all God's children, then that is beauty too. And that isn't beauty by other people's standards, which means we've got to make our own.
Oh my God, so well said. I love it. If we create a world of women who can speak like this to themselves, about themselves, we are changing the world. I'll add to that to say, I have never seen what I consider successful woman who speaks negatively of herself. Not one time. Not one time. And it's
Success
like
won't
not just
last.
money success, right? Like
Yeah.
I look at the women who have the things that I consider having all, having a family, having a business, having relationships, right? Like having depth in everything that they do. I have not once met one woman who will be shy to say good things about herself, who will speak negatively, who will bash them the way she looks. Now, we can work on bettering ourselves. Like you said, until my last breath, I'm going to work on myself to better myself. But that doesn't mean creating a completely different version of what I have gotten. It just means working with what I have to make it, to me, the best. And the other thing that you said is when I give myself applause, I see this with women, like they can, a lot of business owner women, especially in the early stages, in the last first few years, it's like they're afraid to post online because they're afraid of negative comments. And when you applaud yourself, the negative comment can literally do nothing for you. Nothing. Because like the way you just spoke to yourself, I don't care who says what, you're like, What does that have to do with me? Like, it's just that that's the confidence that I feel that women are searching for, but they're searching for it in the outside things where it's really about how do I actually speak to myself? Can I stand in front of a mirror and say something nice without having sweaty palms? And if I can't, how can I practice this?
It's really interesting. And I'm so glad you raised this because I see this a lot. And the thing is, like, in the first instance, I was nervous the first time I went to post on social media. 14th of March 2020 was when I posted my first LinkedIn post, and I've been posting daily ever since. What I will say is a couple of things as a backdrop to that particular journey. So, number one is as a Black woman online, I get racist and misogynistic and misogynoir abuse fairly regularly. I will probably average it out at about one or two times a month. So it's not every day, but it isn't like, it's so common. I'm just like, okay, fine, like, and whatever. I will report that to the platform. Sometimes it goes against their community standards, sometimes it doesn't. Back in February, after the BAFTA situation happened here in the UK with the Tourette sufferer, I wrote an innocuous post. I didn't write anything about the person. I spoke about Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo doing their job, having that situation in their world, and kind of some of the implications. That particular post went viral on a platform. I got death threats, rape threat, like it was ridiculous. I had to really ask myself a few questions, and I had to, send things to the police, and it got completely out of hand. And what I will say to you is the very next day, I went back on and carried on posting. I went the very next day, I carried on doing what I was doing, not because I was unaffected by that particular incident. It was horrid. And I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, let alone any person out there trying to make a difference. But what I also knew that was important was that I had to put that in perspective. And the perspective for me was twofold. Number one is and we are living in the best time that it has ever been to be a woman in this world, as far as I can tell, and certainly a woman that looks like me. Our ancestors have been through pestilence, war, famine, like terrible situations. Um, and they didn't go through all of that for me to now be afraid to say things to straight and be, controlled by strangers on the internet. So putting it in perspective, I think, is one part, or that perspective is one. But the other is the second. I'm a mum, so I have three sons, and I had to ask myself, what example do I want to be in this season? Like, what do I want to be able to say to them in this season and about this situation when all's said and done? And I knew what I wanted to be able to say, and therefore I knew what I had to do in the moment. And what I wanted to do in the moment and what I ultimately did in the moment were two completely different things. I did not cuss anybody. I did not I did not use any words I wouldn't want my kids to use. I took the decision to think about and be intentional about how I behaved. But what I wasn't going to do was allow people, I wasn't going to let hate win. I wasn't going to let fear win. I wasn't going to allow the sacrifices of my ancestors to all show up in vain. And I wasn't going to be somebody, or I wasn't going to do things that I wasn't going to be proud to say to my children. And so that was my choice. I'm not saying that everybody has to make that specific choice, but what I am speaking about is the power of intentionality. And in what I've shared, how important it is that the conversations were with me. It was what I wanted to do. It was my values. It was my desires and designs for my life, not what other people wanted, not what people who get offended by words on the internet so much so that they threaten your life. Like, I wasn't going to be controlled by them. Like, I don't know what their problems are. I don't know how unhappy they are in their life. And actually, I feel quite sorry for them. But the point there is that I had to decide who I wanted to be in that moment. So this is about the radical responsibility. This is about a real sense of maturing. And so the reason why I share that is because that is, people's worst nightmare is being trolled, is being threatened, and I'm like, it happened. It wasn't the first time. I've had situations like that happen to me in the past. And what I also want to, what, as you can see, if you can see, and if you're listening, then you can hear, I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm stronger than ever. Made plenty of cash in my business the very next day. You know what I mean? It's really important that we put things in perspective, but more importantly, that we make the choice, that we don't allow the choice to be taken out of our hands and for people to decide on our behalf, especially if they're going to decide what we wouldn't want for ourselves.
Oh my God, that was so powerful. First of all, how crappy are some people online? Wow. But like you said, it really is about their unhappiness. I tell people when I was miserable, happy people used to piss me off. So like it really just speaks for them, not you. You took precaution and then the next day you went online. I had similar things. I don't want to get into that right now, but it's the same thing. The next day I was like why would that affect me? And I think the main thing here that is a theme of all of this is that true self-confidence, which what you shared was it starts with how I talk to myself. It starts with acknowledging what I did today that I'm proud of. It always goes back to that positive reinforcement, because if I'm not going to do that for me, I'm constantly dependent on other people doing it for me, and that's a very slippery slope in my opinion.
100%.
So, so you shared that, you live your little boring life like I do live mine, happy boring. But what if someone spent a week living exactly like you? What do you think would surprise them about you?
I think they'd be surprised how much quiet I like, because I'm quite chatty. I think they would be surprised by the difference between what makes it into the public domain versus what happens behind the scenes. I think when people create content, because of the nature of parasocial relationships, people can feel like they know you very well. And actually, they don't. And it isn't because I'm a different person online. It is because online is a snippet of who I actually am. And so I am, I'm a business owner. I'm a founder, but more importantly, I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. And so I think they would be on the basis of, the size and the scale and the success of the business. I think they'd probably be quite surprised at how much of my life isn't about my business at all. It's about the other things. It's about, my the laugh, playing games with my sons, and they're all at different ages and stages now. So being a mum to elder teens is very different to being a mum to primary school age children. So I think that would definitely surprise them. I suspect people think I'm a lot more career orientated than I actually am. I think also they would be surprised by how much work I still continue to do. So I very much take this work around, my mindset, my nervous system, in the same way that we think of feeding our body. I absolutely think about feeding my conscious and subconscious mind. And so I'm very much still doing the work every day. I still have the doubts. I still have my coaches. I have coaches plural. I'm not, just because I'm a coach to lots of people doesn't mean that I have this all on lock. So I spend a lot of time getting myself right, preparing myself, supporting myself. And I'm not doing this journey alone by any stretch of the imagination, which surprises me because I'm very much lone wolf in tendency, but I know the value of having your trusted support people, trusted voices, trusted friends, trusted colleagues. And so I think the surprises would come at how ordinary my day-to-day life is, but how powerfully consistency and compounding turns those ordinary things into extraordinary results.
Love that. Love that. And it still goes back to I work on me every single day. Love it.
Multiple
What do you
times a day.
think? Yeah.
Lots of work, lots of work.
What do
Yeah.
you think? Say what? What did you say?
No, I said lots of work here. I work on myself multiple times a day, the morning, through the morning, into the afternoon. I reset at lunchtime, carry on, and then in the like it. And again, I one of the phrases that really changed my life is you don't have to be sick to want to get better. Like where you start from mentally,
Yes.
I don't work on improvement from a deficit. There's nothing wrong with me now. I just want to see how good I can get it. I want to see how much we can do. I want to see
Yes.
the impact we can make. It's exciting to me. It's not,
Yes.
I have to fix it. There's something wrong with me. I did used to think there were plenty of things wrong with me, but I know better now. So, and when we know better, we do better.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm going to take that from you again. You don't have to be sick to become healthy because why keep waiting? I always tell people, like, your symptoms are not just going to get better on their own. Like, they're asking for an input, and that's where you don't have to keep waiting for more symptoms. With that said, what do you think that ambitious women sometimes get wrong about success? In the very beginning, you mentioned that thriving or having it all can be different for everyone. Is there anything else that stands out for you that you would want to mention?
Yeah, I think women get wedded to their own definition of success, forgetting that they also are seasonal. And so your ambitions from 10 or 12, 15 years ago may or may not be relevant now, and it's okay to change your mind. I think I see women, um, yeah, running in clothes that don't fit them anymore. And they refuse to let them go because they feel like they cannot shift. You make the rules, you get to shift. And whenever we are in a situation where we feel we can't shift, it is because that definition of success has been validated by others, and now we're worried about what others think. And so I think ambition is such a beautiful gift, but it's an advanced one, and it needs to be wielded with care and used wisely.
Oh yes, ambition is I love my ambition, and I have been through seasons where I used ambition to just keep hitting my head against the wall in my 30s, and it was like, okay, it needs to be channeled. It needs to be channeled the right way, and then you run with it, and then you can move mountains. All right, thank you for sharing. You shared like a wealth of information, and the main thing that I see again here is like that inner work, that confidence, the way I speak to myself, just so much about the inner work. So you said we already shared your business strategies. What is something you're working on these days? Where can people go to get more of you?
So I one of my favorite quotes, and you can see I've got lots of quotes from this episode, but one of them is the masters never don't do the basics. Like I'm really here for mastery. I want to be the go-to person for my areas of expertise, and that requires to ensure that those basics are sound. So a lot of the work that I'm doing now is helping founders around the basics. Like one of the offers that is really in high, promotion circulation at the moment, is the offer that answers the question, where am I going to get my cash from today? Businesses need cash. Like we can talk about it, not talk about it, want to avoid it, rather go and like build a website, do a blog, whatever. When it all comes down to it, a business without cash is not a business. So, and I was finding that founders couldn't answer the most basic questions. Where is the cash coming from today? What do I need to do first? And I created a tool and a resource to solve that problem. And so it's the most accessible offer I have. And because I want to get it into the hands of as many people as possible. And it's called the 20-minute cash creation protocol, and it helps you create cash for your business in 20 minutes. So we are working on the basics, making the basics super accessible. No long trainings, no 7-part courses. It's a class where you learn the thing. It's a checklist where you tick through the thing, and then it's a timer to do the damn thing. And so, as you said, all signal, no noise when it comes to that space. In terms of finding me, I am most active on the socials. LinkedIn is my primary place of content creation. I'm there every single day. And so you can find me there, but I'm also on the other platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, the one they call X, and Threads, and TikTok. So yeah, I'm all over those socials, but LinkedIn is where you find me most actively. And I'm really about those basics, because the basics are the same. And, while I continue to work with, multi 6, 7-figure business owners and beyond, and women who really want to scale to create something great, I also know that building a house on sand is a fool's errand, and building a house without that cash flow foundation is a fool's errand. So yes, there are those high ticket offers. I still work one-to-one. I still have the masterminds for women above 6 figures, and the cash flow accelerator for women who want to get to 6 figures. But I also wanted to make sure that women who, maybe weren't ready or didn't have that cash yet, could really learn at the most basic level what to do in the first instance, hence the protocol.
I love that. We'll put all the links that you can share with me, that I'll put them everywhere so people can grab those offers. And it's all about the basics. When I work with women on high performance, I'm like, basics, workout, sleep, nutrition, you can't outdo it, right? Like, it would be like people in business getting advice for an 8-figure business and they're starting out. It's very different, right? And the foundation has to be strong. You can't build a skyscraper on a pile of sand. So you have to get that right. I love that you built that for women. We'll share that everywhere so everybody can grab it. Thank you once again for joining us today. What a beautiful conversation this was. And I'll make sure people can connect with you, everybody who wants to connect on LinkedIn. If you're into high performance, you have my 3-minute brain reset toolkit. You can grab that. I will also have a link for that below, because health and wealth go together. Thank you, Yinka, and we